The President of Serbia, Aleksandar Vucic. He's joining us live in studio, along with Rick Grinnell, former acting DNI. Good to see you, and welcome back, Rick. And good to see you, Mr. President. Thanks so much for coming on. We do appreciate that. Rick, I know you wanted to start off with the first question.
So, Mr. President, thank you for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Obviously, our viewers know that there's been rising tensions with Kosovo the last couple of weeks, but it seems to have dissipated, which is a good thing. So my question to you is are there further talks? What is the actual status right now with the tensions?
I'll do my best to be as brief as it is possible. First of all, for the American people that are not very much aware of Serbia, we are coming from Europe, and now we have just marked and celebrated 140 years of our diplomatic relations with the USA, and as a matter of fact, we were both on the right side of history during the First World War and the Second World War. We were, together with France, the only country that got its flag streamed above the White House after the First World War because of colossal victims and great victories we provided to Allied forces. But let me respond very quickly to your question. Yes, this is, I believe that we successfully de-escalated the situation that we were facing with a few weeks ago, but we'll have to invest more efforts to continuing the process of negotiations and to finding some compromising solutions. It's always easy to tarnishing someone, and I don't play any kind of blame games. We'll have to invest into that, and I hope that the other side will understand the opportunity of reaching compromising solutions, which is always much better than using weaponry, ordnance, and everything else that we see in today's world.
Mr. President,
and it's dialogue process under the auspices of EU
right,
with the relatively big involvement of the USA as well.
Right. Mr. President, I know that Serbia has a difficult relationship with Russia. You get 100% of your energy from Russia. This is a time where we've seen the Russian offense going into Ukraine. There's talks of nuclear war. There's talks of nuclear weapons from the Russians. What does the war in Ukraine and in the tensions in Europe right now mean for you in Serbia?
We have always had traditionally good ties with Russia and Ukraine as well. And we have always been supportive to territorial integrity of all the countries in the world, and we were very much principled and aligned with the UN Charter and UN resolutions, and that's why we condemned the incursion and invasion at the beginning of Ukrainian war. At the same time, we have different attitude towards Russia on some other issues, but yeah, we'll have to see all the opportunities, how to improve our energy sector, how to diversify our energy supply sources.
I know you made that commitment in the original Trump agreement, the final agreement, to have economic normalizations. There's a commitment that you made to diversify energy away from Russia.
Yeah, and that's why we are. It's not only about Russia, but it's something that would be good for Serbia. You know, to constructing that interconnector between Serbia and Bulgaria, constructing that interconnector between Serbia and North Macedonia. And what I would say regarding that Washington agreement, that because you were present there, you know every single item that we actually signed. It was, and let me brag ourselves of something that was very important to me. At that time, you initiated, and President Trump, together with you, initiated economic ties as ties of an utmost importance for both of us, but not only for both of us, but for an entire region. Reconstruction of an entire road and railroad infrastructure and everything else. And today we see the level of trade turnover between our two countries, Serbia and United States of America, bigger than ever. We exceeded 1.2 billion, which is not small amount of money for such a small country as relatively small country, although the biggest in the region, as Serbia is. And I can brag ourselves of getting Rivian, and they announced that today morning, to Serbia. They're going to open R&D center firstly.
And to give a little context for our viewers, Rivian is an American electric car company that's now announced they're going to build software engineers in Belgrade up to 200.
200 engineers and then up to 1,000 engineers, and then we hope something much bigger for Serbia.
Do you think it's because of the lithium mine that is the largest in the world that's based in Serbia? Do you think electric car companies are going to be able to recognize this?
We had terrible problems with lithium in the past, and I made some political mistakes, and I'm, ready to admit it. But I don't think that was the main reason. Maybe that was a part of the reason for those people. I don't know. But I believe that good business climate was the main reason for them to decide on this, because they were looking for an attractive location, and all our incentives, all our subsidies, but very professional and skillful people that were presenting our programs and that were presenting our tax system, fiscal system, and everything else did a great job. And speaking about FDIs and attraction of FDIs, we are the champions of the region, and last year we were the champions of Europe, mentioned by Financial Times as well. And we successfully
FDI meaning foreign direct investment.
Foreign direct investment, yes, foreign direct investment. And we successfully attracted 3.3 billion euros, which is proportionally to the size and to the population of the country, relatively big or very big.
I want to get to, if I can, one of today's top stories. As you know, the United States of America supplies billions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine, fighting that war now in its more than 200 days of Russia invading Ukraine. Just recently, as we played at the top of this very broadcast, Russian President Vladimir Putin saying that he would retaliate to the West, somewhat of a veiled nuclear threat, which has many worried, especially in the West. He also says he's not bluffing. I know that you know President Putin. In your mind, do you believe he's bluffing?
Well, you ask me something in a way that I should act as a political analyst, which I'm not. And as a president of Serbia, I can only say that we hope that peace might prevail, and we hope that everybody will do its best to finding a compromising solution, because it's much better than to wait for the other side's defeat. But because I met President Putin many times, I don't believe that he's bluffing, as he said. That's all I can say.
I'll move on to, I appreciate you answering the question. I'll move on to the Holocaust Museum.
I always do,
yes,
when it is possible.
I see that. I wanted to move on, if I can, to this. I know that you're building a Holocaust Museum in the Serbian capital, Belgrade. Also, several members of your own family, I'm being told, were murdered during World War II. And obviously, that would hit home for you. Ibrahim Raisi, the president of Iran, recently essentially questioned whether the Holocaust actually happened in a recent interview here in the States. I want to play this for you and get your response to that. Here's Raisi.
Do you believe the Holocaust happened? That 6 million Jews were slaughtered?
Look, historical events should be investigated by researchers and historians. There are some signs that it happened. If so, they should allow it to be investigated and researched.
So you're not sure?
When you listen to that and you hear Raisi question whether or not the Holocaust is real, how do you react?
Well, I see this statement for the first time, and I can say that I have full respect to all the heads of the state, to all the heads of the government, but I can say what is my view on this, and not only on behalf of my soul, but on behalf of the Serbian people and Serbian state. We are very close friends of Jewish people, and we believe that not only that Holocaust happened, we believe that, and we have proofs on our own territory. And I'll tell you a very short story which you might be interested in. But before that, I also believe that crimes and atrocities that were committed against the Jewish people during the Second World War are not only unforgettable, but unforgivable as well. And I tell you, there was a big concentration camp at the territory of independent state of Croatia it was a Nazi puppet state during the Second World War. You have that big inscription in Yad Vashem as well, Jasenovac. But not only that, we had this kind of terrible place on the territory of that Nazi puppet state in the very heart of Belgrade, today's Belgrade. And what we did, we actually started rebuilding that place. That was a place ruined by the people, and we didn't know what was actually happening with the Jews. And when I went there, because we made a decision to rebuild it, we made a decision to revoke the memories, to see what was really going on there. I met one, you would say, young lady, and she's 90 years old, and Esther Bayer. And I met her. And she said to me, Mr. President, thank you very much for doing this for us. Well, that was my duty, nothing special. But she was so energetic. She was so ambitious about the project. And she said to me, you see over there, Mr. President, there is a cafe. And her father was killed there. Her father was killed there. And many, many, many Jews. Thousands of Jews. And then when they either killed or expelled most of the Jews, they started doing the same with the Serbs. But you know, that terrific lady, Esther, said to me, I was approaching the people that were drinking beer, Coke, or something else for 20, 30 years, saying to them, you cannot do it here. This is the place where people were killed. And everybody was like staring at me saying, well, no, what a crazy old woman or whatever. Now everybody knows that I'm not crazy, that I was saying the truth. And I'm proud that we were able to revive and to renew the truth for Serbian people and for the world as well. And this is going to be really a magnificent place that will mark the friendship between Serbs and Jews, but not only that, that will say to us that it might never happen again.
Right. Remembering the atrocities that happened so long ago, even to this day. I know we have to wrap this up with you because I know you have to get to, obviously, your speech. The final question for you. If you could describe your relationship with President Biden, who's been in office now, versus the relationship with President Trump. I know Rick, obviously, working under the Trump administration. What stands out to you in terms of the differences in these administrations, sir?
That's the most difficult question for someone
Saved it for last.
Who is not a political analyst. But anyway, I met President Biden 4 times. I met twice President Trump. And I can say that, well, President Biden was one of the best prepared people for a discussion about all the political issues. That's what I have to admit. But speaking about President Trump, he's a different type of a person, very charismatic, like a bulldozer. He always wanted to see the result. And what he did together with Rick, and that's why I was profoundly grateful to Rick, he realized that economy is something that might connect us. And they turned to this concrete issues that would work in favor of ordinary people's lives in the region. And I cannot forget it because they were engaging 20 federal agencies to be helpful to us, to attempting to find a solution which will make not both sides happy, but both sides equally dissatisfied, but progressing economically. And I can say that this kind of trade turnover and increased and improved economic cooperation with the United States of America and even within the region. And they were very supportive to an open Balkan initiative from the very first moment. And I can say many thanks to them. That's it. But I believe that people see these kind of differences regardless of whether they belong to
Thank you so
the
much,
blue
Mr.
or
President.
red camp. Yeah.
We really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah. Rick
Thank you,
Grinnell, President Vucic, great to meet you. Also sharing the same birthday as we shared. Good to see you. Thank you again for that.
Always
We do
good to see you.
appreciate it.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.